This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. We have some interesting information, letters, new crimes, and things we're going to probe today. I would like to start by inviting back to the show Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And Harriette Suchet.
Hey, good morning, Nolan and Nanette.
Now, Harriette, I can't believe either of us didn't pick up on this, but Nolan informed me that last Friday was November 22nd, 2024, and we didn't know what date that was. So, Nolan, tell us what we missed.
It's the anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
And I about fell over.
Yep.
I know that we talked last week, Harriette, about JFK in that particular podcast, but I thought, oh my gosh, I never even picked up on that or thought about it. So, yes, we did do that on November 22nd, 2024. And then this episode is going to be our Thanksgiving episode, which is actually going to fall on Black Friday. Woo! For all those shoppers. I'm done with my Christmas shopping. I am not going out on that day. You can't make me. All right, so I'm going to start with some YouTube comments, and we have an Ezra Cubis, which he says, I believe I remember Dennis saying that the FBI had made a positive DNA match between a Zodiac letter stamp and Jack's son or stepson that was in prison, who would have been a young kid at the time. To me, this would prove without a doubt that Jack was involved. So, Harriette, was it on a letter and on an envelope or a stamp? I thought I remember Dennis saying something about Danny Reynolds' DNA.
Yeah, it was the stamp. It was a large portion of the stamp for the Halloween card, which apparently is the only document that we can maybe have access to. But anyways, he said it was the Halloween card, the stamp. And I think it was 40% or 60% of the DNA had come back for Danny Reynolds, of all people, who, was in jail at the time.
So you're saying they already have they had Danny Reynolds' DNA?
He'd done something where they were going to need his DNA, I guess, and he's in prison, so he came up with a match. But Dennis said this actually came out, I think it's a few years earlier, before he was able to make the official announcement. He said to me, he said that he was waiting forever for that. That's when he was able to make the official announcement on his website, which is no longer in existence.
See, and I was under the impression that we needed to obtain a sample from him, because I was trying to discuss with Doris Reynolds at one point in time, coming to visit her and discussing things with her in regards to Jack, in hopes for me to obtain, because I thought that what the FBI had said is they had two profiles on there. They needed one to be able to sort out the second. And if Danny Reynolds was a match, they could then remove his profile, and the profile that was left would hopefully lead them to the actual killer. So I guess I was a little confused on that. I didn't know they had made an identification on him, because then the FBI told me, after I had discussed with Doris Reynolds coming to visit her, that they didn't think that I could obtain the DNA sample properly with the proper chain of command. And they claimed that they had gone down to visit Doris Reynolds, I guess, a couple months after I had conversed with her. And they said they found her in a home. She was unable to speak, basically just lethargic. I don't know what had happened or what her medical situation was, but they indicated they weren't able to even interview her or talk to her because of the condition she was in. So, and I want to say that Danny Reynolds has been, Danny Reynolds has been in and out of prison so many times. They should have his DNA on file, and maybe that's where they got it when they did that particular test. But then why were they letting me go through the motion of contacting Doris, and why were they attempting to go down to speak to her if they already had this DNA profile?
Well, maybe it was, and I'll just throw this out there, it was just because they wanted to get a outsider type of confirmation, to try to get it again, to verify what they were already had, because it makes it more believable. But I just remembered, and I think I have it somewhere in the emails that I was exchanging many, many years ago about the announcement that Dennis was so proud. They said that came back with a huge chunk matching the other stepson before him, Danny Reynolds.
So, and then that makes me insane, because I know that the FBI and Dennis and I all had a conversation amongst each other, in which case Dennis was questioning the DNA of Denny. So Jack's biological son was purportedly found on a water bottle that was at the scene of the crime of an unsolved murder of a woman. And the FBI's response was, well, he could have been driving down the road and tossed the bottle out. It doesn't make him the killer. But now that we have two sources of DNA that link back to relations and proximity to Jack, I mean, doesn't that literally scream we should be investigating him and only him?
Yes. Yeah, I've been saying that for years.
Yeah, more than
that's very very much more than circumstantial. I'm a little confused, unless again we're just back to Hollyweird trying to make sure that this thing isn't solved. Well, that brings us back to Hollyweird, because the second part of his YouTube message was, if you watch the new Netflix documentary series on the Zodiac, they make a very compelling case Arthur Lee Allen was at least complicit in the series of crimes going all the way back to Sherry Jo Bates. The Zodiac cases may have been more than one killer working on a team. I believe Jack did the Lake Berryessa and Paul Stein murders. Well, let you in on a secret here, Ezra. Sherry Jo Bates was committed by the Zodiac Killer. And the handwriting and the typewritten messages are all consistent and the same as the Zodiac Killer. So unless Arthur Lee Allen is all that, then he's none of that. Whether he's complicit or not, I think that really boils down to the fact that Jack knew who Arthur Lee Allen was. Jack also indicated he was taking flying lessons with a friend. And if I remember correctly, Harriette, didn't you say that Allah flew planes?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Arthur Lee Allen.
Yeah, he had a pilot's license.
So he could have very well been the person that Jack was flying with, taking lessons with, and I think set up the whole DB Cooper caper with. So if he's complicit at all, it's because he was.
I think he was kind of forced to go along and play the game, and he took the blame for killing Darlene Ferrin and being Zodiac, because it was better than taking the blame for being a part of the conspiracy as to who killed Marilyn Monroe and Robert F. Kennedy Sr. I can go on and on, but so
well, I'm going to tell you
what happened with them.
I took the time to watch this documentary against my will and begrudgingly, stomping and kicking my feet the entire way. I did not see any evidence that led me to believe that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac. In fact, he explicitly stated on many, many occasions, sometimes crying and distraught, how much of a toll this has taken on him, because he was not the Zodiac. Every time he thought it had quit because they cleared him, it came back around again because there are just jackwagons like Robert Graysmith and this Rita Miller. We're going to get into her because I'm really pissed off at her. But the bottom line is this man died with a typewritten letter signed by him in his hand on the floor of his apartment that stated, "I am not the Zodiac." So people, let's get one thing straight here, because I'm really upset about this docuseries. Zodiac was a boastful man, and the Zodiac wanted his story told. If this man had been the Zodiac when he died, that letter would have stated implicitly that he was the Zodiac and that he had committed those crimes. Why else? There's nobody else left. If he's dead and gone, there's nobody to come back onto. He's never going to see a day in jail. So this man died protesting his innocence, and I wish America would just get over it.
Yeah.
Anyways, hold on, Harriette. Nolan, go ahead.
He was in Riverside at the time of the Sherry Jo Bates killing, but that's
I think
circumstantial. I mean,
I think that he gave the rides. I think he was the plane ride. He was the means of transportation. And if he's part of the group, he's part of the group, but he's certainly not the Zodiac. He certainly didn't kill anybody.
No, he's not.
No. So let's see. I basically just go ahead, Harriet.
I was just going to say really quick that Arthur Lee Allen was no saint, but he was by far not the Zodiac. Yeah. So it looks like it's at times he had to go along with stuff. And, but years later, he's trying to say, I'm not the Zodiac, but he's in some really weird crap. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say.
It looks like I'm on the right for digital mic. Does that sound a better one?
It's different. I don't know if it's better.
Well, I was saying make sure I was on the right mic, and this usually defaults to my mic, so I've never had to actually check it. I'm going to say this is the microphone array Intel.
You sounded fine before. You sound good now, so
okay.
I wouldn't worry about it.
All right, then I'm not going to rip on it.
All right.
All right, so I'm sorry, Harriet. I kind of lost you. What were you saying there?
No, I was just saying really quick. I know I've seen a lot of things through Decoding Jack's World that Arthur Lee Allen was by far no saint. He was into some really weird crap, and he was
he was a pedophile.
Some things. So and more. He was, according to Jack, made some stamps out of Marilyn Monroe's pictures when they killed her for people to lick those naked pictures. And then I've seen it more than once. So he's by far no saint, but he's not the Zodiac. He was not smart enough for it.
Right, exactly.
His face doesn't match. I mean,
he's
Jack
bald. He's bald from day one. He was probably born bald and lived bald and was always bald, because I looked at the pictures and the video footage of Sherry Jo Bates' time frame, and he was bald then. So folks, this is not the Zodiac. My gosh, he looks nothing like it. Well, anyway, so Ezra goes on and says, why weren't these fingerprints compared with Jack's? I read the shuffle walk that was walking away from Steincab was precisely Jack's shuffle. Absolutely. So he said, didn't Jack have a scar on his thumb that was consistent with the thumbprint on the cab? Do you know anything about a scar on Jack's thumb, Harriet?
All I know is that parts of his fingertips were missing. So, and I believe that's in the original Zodiac by Gray Smith, where he had some amazing photographs. So I'm going to say that I don't remember a scar, but I remember seeing some really, really great fingerprints that Gray Smith had.
If there were fingerprints,
then I'll have to.
They were.
What's that?
Planted. The Zodiac took great pains never to leave fingerprints. So I don't think they were the perpetrator. Maybe they're fingerprints, but they're not the Zodiac's fingerprints.
He said he covered his fingers in airplane cement. So that's basically like taking a thick super glue and covering your entire tip. You wouldn't have any ridges or fingerprints otherwise to actually expose. So I think that really alludes to the fact that when he sent the letters to Tom Voight, he sent fingerprints in, but they're missing all of the tips of the fingers, and it only covers from here down, because he likely did exactly what Dennis had said, which was destroyed his fingertips by dipping his hands into acid. Either way, let's see.
They match.
We know that
they look like they match to me. So,
well, if they had this portion of his hand, so from top knuckle down to the palm, then and there was any match in those areas, then certainly if they've got those type of fingerprints or something like that in order to compare that to. Otherwise, I think even if they have a thumbprint, we do have Jack's military records, and on the microfiche, it actually. It actually shows his deltas and the center swirl. It has all of the ridge quality that we're looking for to do a comparison if we can just get our hands on it. But Napa Sheriff's Department has been reluctant to even work with me on it or even take a look at it or provide them, for that matter, to my girlfriend who does fingerprint analysis and had been the fingerprint tech for the Napa Sheriff's Department. Either way.
Why are they so reluctant? Why are they,
Because Jack's it. Because Jack's it. And look at everything we've tied Jack to. You know, if Jack wasn't such a superb suspect, if we didn't have all of the links and the qualifying factors for him to be the Zodiac, then I think that they would definitely give us that hours that they gave Deborah Perez, or that they're giving to Arthur Lee Allen, or to many of these other fake suspects that Hollyweird keeps wanting to produce on an annual basis. It's like each year they come out with another person they have no evidence on, they have no handwriting for, they have no fingerprints, they have no information, and they're just blowing things up to confuse America. I'm so mad at those people. Anyways, so he goes on to say, actually, the scar was on the right index finger, clearly seen from the fingerprints taken off the cab. Dennis had said that Jack had the same exact scar before he dissolved his fingerprints in acid. Gary Stewart had claimed that his father, Earl Van Best, was the Zodiac and had the same scar until they discovered it was actually on his left index finger, not on the right like Jack had. Worth trying to pull up. Dennis had talked about it in a blog, I believe. So, and Dennis's blog is down. I can't really go back to find the things that Dennis had actually posted on website Toolbox. So that's unfortunate that once he passed that came down, because he was likely not paying the bill for it anymore. Either way, so it's on an index finger, not on a thumb. And Dennis claimed that Jack did, based on what Ezra had read from his blog. Boy, come on now. All right, so let's go to the Arthur Lee Allen information. Like I said, I did watch this docuseries. I looked to see what I could find that was consistent. I didn't find anything that I felt was consistent with the actual crimes of the Zodiac. And it is called, This is the Zodiac Speaking. It is playing on Netflix. The one thing that I'm most upset about on this particular docuseries is the fact that Rita Miller, the investigative journalist for, I didn't even catch which news company, because you guys know I believe they're all dirty, so it doesn't matter. By the way, these particular communications in regards to the Albany, New York, we've already gone over them, but I brought this up for people to see because I wanted to discuss it with Harriette. Rita Miller actually promised not to show Arthur Lee Allen's face. So she's on screen in this docuseries stating that Arthur Lee Allen agreed to do an interview with her, but he made her promise that she would not show his face. So she agreed to pixelize his face because his concern was, as things had died down, he didn't want his face to be prominent back in the news again and start getting hounded by individuals again because it was too stressful. Well, this BI, and yes, I said BI, I want to say bitch, let me say bitch. Not only did she produce this segment and interview with Arthur Lee Allen, after making the promise not to show his face, they pixelized his face for the first airing of it. They decided at a later date they were going to come back and remove the pixelization, and they played this interview anyways, still claiming and putting him forth as the Zodiac Killer, which absolutely floored me. How the hell do you make a promise to somebody in exchange for an interview and then turn around and take that promise back when you see it fits you? You are nothing but a money-hungry, rating-grabbing, backstabbing, piece of crap that I find that the news is to begin with. You guys all have to lie or what? So anybody want to chime in on that? I was so mad.
Yeah. Journalists have gone to jail right? over keeping their promises to their sources. You know, so that's really unethical of her, to say the least.
Completely unethical. I couldn't even believe it. She's got this smirk on her face like she's excited and proud about it. Like, oh my gosh, you've just decimated this man's life, threw him back up in the middle of the news again because you think that what everybody else is saying about him being the Zodiac, even though she clearly knew that he had been cleared from handwriting, from searches, from fingerprints, from palm prints, from DNA. This man had been cleared 15 ways from Sunday, and she's still, oh, I think I just interviewed the Zodiac. You're dumb. Okay, you're just dumb. All right, that's the rant. Now, that goes on with, we already talked about he died with the letter in his hand, and then they talked about the cipher that reads and redacted. So the other part of this docuseries is this Connie Hensley, Hensley isn't even her last name. Hensley was her mother's maiden name. Arthur Lee Allen took so well care of and provided all kinds of opportunities to, because their mother was single. I think there was either 5 or 7 of these kids running around, but he's helping this woman out on a daily basis with taking care of these kids. Literally, one of them who she looks like she doesn't even believe he's the Zodiac. She just participated in this docuseries, and I don't know why. But she indicated that while she was living in New York, this letter came into the Albany Medical Center that was predicting their next victim. And she claimed that the coded cipher at the bottom contained the name Connie Henley, not Hensley, but Henley. And that was so close. It was one misspelling, and she figured the Zodiac misspelled. So the misspelling of her name. Here's what I don't believe. First off, Arthur Lee Allen knew exactly the family. He's taking care of the family, providing for the family, taking these kids on trips, gives this girl a boat, yet he can't spell her last name. I don't buy it. Number two, I'm looking at the code at the bottom of this actual letter. It has exactly the number of characteristics that reads out the word Albany Medical Center. This is only the beginning. So this is his threat. So he says he's going to get her August 10th at 5 p.m. when the shift change. First off, Connie Hensley, which that's her mother's maiden name, not even her maiden name, wasn't even living on that side of New York. She was living a great deal of distance away. So Albany, New York is the target, and she's now trying to claim that somehow the Zodiac is insisting he's going to get her. I don't see her name in this anywhere. The ciphers, in my information and research, it says cipher reads redacted, Albany Medical Center, this is only the beginning. Well, if you look down here and you count out these symbols at the very bottom of this letter, there's just enough symbols to actually make the words Albany Medical Center, this is only the beginning. Nothing left. Did you find any portion of this code redacted, Harriette?
I didn't have anything redacted. So, I even have the solved. We've done the show a while ago, but
right.
It's not saying anything about Connie Hensley.
No, and I don't see any redaction whatsoever. So where is it that this redacted area that they're claiming and that purportedly says her name? And if it had said her name and they couldn't find a Connie Henley, that this person didn't exist, why redact it? That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I never seen a redacted version unless somebody and we got to go there, at theydon'tlikeus.com, put it on there. So Tom Voight and his crew.
Is it? Oh, and I saw Tom Voight. Years ago. Tom Voight is on this docuseries. Tom Voight is on the docuseries. This is the Zodiac speaking. You guys, life is giving him a hard road because this man looks nothing like he used to look when he dealt with Dennis 10 years ago. So either things are bad for him because he is not looking good, or everything's kind of falling apart. And that kind of stress with somebody competing against your beliefs when you're actually delivering the truth could cause somebody to have an inability to sleep, likely to get sick, and maybe even gain some weight from stress. I don't know. Anyways, another rant. Mm-hmm. So we don't see any.
Not to watch the docuseries. What? Another reason to not watch. I don't want to see him.
I was shocked when I had actually stepped away I was doing my daughter's hair. I was doing some bleach and some braiding for her, and I'd stepped away to get something upstairs. And when I came back down, I saw his face flash on the screen, but it wasn't that I recognized that it was him, but I was like, oh dear God, is that Tom Voight? Are you serious? So I had to reverse it and replay it. And my daughter's all, yeah, I think it is. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I had to kind of do this little, yep, it's him. Definitely not looking the same anymore. So we don't have any redaction that we can tell from this image. And I pulled this image from your book, Harriette. I don't see any area where there's anything redacted. I don't see any extra letters that would allow for that name to be told. So I'm going to roll with the fact that that was just completely made up by these people. Pipe bombs.
Yes,
what's that?
I said yes, as usual.
Right.
And so they get a series out of it and make some money going the wrong way.
Pipe bombs were basically found at Arthur Lee Allen's house, and they were trying to claim that this was one of the reasons why he should be considered a viable suspect, which doesn't make any sense because the Zodiac never talked about pipe bombs, guys. He was far more intelligent than that. He talked about schematics and diagrams for trigger mechanisms and other things that would help this bomb to go off. So I highly doubt that it was something as simple as a pipe bomb, let alone the fact that Arthur Lee Allen said that he allowed a friend to store some things underneath his house. Can't believe he allowed not somebody to store bombs. That blows my mind. But he does seem kind of like a carefree, a little dumbed down individual who may not have cared, but he said he wasn't even aware of what his friends stored underneath there, so he had no idea they were bombs. And I tend to believe that, because who knows that somebody stores a bomb under their house and allows them to do that? Nobody.
Well,
no ridiculous. It is. So let's move on to Bob Crane at this point. And June 29th, 1978, Robert Crane, actor from Scottsdale, Arizona. Graysmith actually writes about his death too. So I find it interesting that somehow Robert Graysmith has made some connection between these. Crane frequently videotaped and photographed his own sexual escapades. During the run of Hogan's Heroes, Dawson introduced him to John Henry Carpenter, a regional sales manager for Sony Electronics. Now we're talking Sony Electronics was one of the cutout papers, I believe, in the DB Cooper cutouts, wasn't it, Harriette?
Yeah.
I know it's an electronics company, but I believe so. Yeah.
So Dawson, is that Richard Dawson? He was on the cast of Hogan's Heroes. Probably Richard Dawson. Right.
Yeah.
Later game show host.
Right. Wow, I didn't put that together. So yeah, they just said Dawson.
Yeah, it's Richard Dawson. He was in Hogan's Heroes.
Gotcha. Hollyweird. All right, so he was... John Carpenter was a regional sales manager for Sony Electronics who often helped famous clients with their video equipment. The two men struck up a friendship and began visiting bars and nightclubs together. Crane attracted many women due to his celebrity status, and he introduced Carpenter to them as his manager. Crane and Carpenter would videotaped their joint sexual encounters. Crane's son, Robert, later insisted that all of the women were aware of the videotaping. Okay.
Yeah.
And consented to it. And consented to it.
Sorry.
But several claimed they had no idea that they had been recorded until they were informed by the Scottsdale police after Crane's murder. That's what I believe. They didn't know. During their friendship, Carpenter became national sales manager at Akai, and he arranged his business trips to coincide with Crane's dinner theater touring schedule so that the two could continue videotaping their sexual encounters. In June of 1978, Crane was living in the Winfield Place apartments in Scottsdale during a run of beginner's luck at the Windmill dinner theater. On the afternoon of June 29th, his co-star Victoria Ann Berry entered his apartment after he failed to show up for a lunch meeting and discovered his body. Crane had been bludgeoned to death with a weapon that was never identified, though investigators believed it to be a camera tripod. An electrical cord had been tied around his neck. This sounds like Zodiac to me. We see so many of these kind of murders that are unsolved. Crane's funeral was held on July 5th, 1978 at St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church in Westwood, Los Angeles, and an estimated 200 family members and friends attended, including John Astin, Astin's wife Patty Duke, and Carol O'Connor. Pallbearers included Hogan's Heroes producer Edward Feldman, co-stars Robert Clary and Larry Hovis, and Crane's son, Robert. He was interred in Oakwood Memorial Park Cemetery in Chatsworth, California. Patricia Olson later had his remains relocated to Westwood Village Memorial Park in Westwood, and she was buried beside him in 2007 under her stage name, Sigrid Valdis. Is that familiar to you? I heard you giggle, Harriette.
Okay.
Oh, you weren't giggling at Patricia Olson?
Well, I'm just, when I heard the name and saw the name Olson, I'm thinking, is she related to the Frank Olson? Any connection?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, it just sounds very weird.
Yeah.
Well, in the trial, it says at the 1994 trial, Crane's son Robert testified that Crane had repeatedly expressed his desire to sever his friendship with Carpenter in the weeks before his death. He said that Carpenter had become a hanger-on and a nuisance to the point of being obnoxious. My dad expressed that he just didn't need Carpenter kind of hanging around him anymore, he said. Robert testified that Crane had called Carpenter the night before the murder and ended their friendship. Carpenter's attorneys attacked the prosecution's case as a circumstantial and inconclusive. They presented evidence that Carpenter and Crane were still on good terms, including witnesses from the restaurant where the two men had dined the evening before the murder. They noted that the murder weapon had never been identified or found. Prosecution's camera tripod theory was sheer speculation, they said, based solely on Carpenter's occupation. They disputed the claim that the newly discovered evidence photo showed brain tissue and alleged that the police work had been sloppy, such as the mishandling and misplacing of the evidence, including the crucial tissue sample itself. They pointed out that Crane had been videotaped and photographed in sexual relations with numerous women, implying that any one of them might have been the killer. Other potential suspects proposed by defense attorneys included angry husbands and boyfriends of the women, and an actor who had sworn vengeance after a violent argument with Crane in Texas several months earlier. Texas comes back into play all the time.
So this Carpenter was actually arrested and brought to trial for Crane's murder? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it says Carpenter was acquitted and he continued to maintain his innocence until his death in 1998.
Wow.
After the trial, Robert speculated publicly that his father's widow, Patty Olson, might have had a role in instigating the crime. Nobody got a dime out of the murder, he said, except for one person, alluding to Crane's will, which excluded him, his siblings, and his mother, with Crane's entire estate left to Olson. So
I would look at her. Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. He repeated his suspicions in the 2015 book, Crane, Sex, Celebrity, and My Father's Unsolved Murder. Maricopa County District Attorney Rick Romley responded, "We never characterized Patty as a suspect," adding, "I'm convinced John Carpenter murdered Bob Crane. Officially, Crane's murder remains unsolved." Oh, that was a lot out.
Follow the money. Follow the money.
Follow the money. Precisely. So that brings us to the July 7th, 1978 friction tape letter from the Zodiac, mailed from Los Angeles to the San Francisco Chronicle. We got to remember that in 1978, Jack is in Texas. However, Jack has come back to California to find Nora, and I'm not exactly sure what month that happened in, but we know that he has made at least one trip back to California to retrieve Nora, who has left him and gone back to California. So it is possible that this could be the time frame in which this letter was mailed. This letter was typewritten. It says, "I am the Zodiac, and I am in control of all things. I'm going to tell you a secret. I like friction tape. I like to have it around in case I need to truss someone up in a hurry. I have my real name on a small metallic tape. You see, while you have it in your possession, I want you to know it belongs to me, and you think I may have left it accidentally." There's that little poetic reference. I am athletic. It could be swim fins or a piece of scuba gear, but maybe you play chess with me. I have several cheap sets in closets all over. I have my name on the bottom of the lid with the Scotch tape. My tape is waiting for me all over California. Do you know me? I am the Zodiac, and I am in control. That was a whole lot. We can say that there are a lot of words in here that are consistent. We know that playing chess seems to be exactly the game of the Zodiac. Having closets all over California is something that I kind of attribute to Jack, because he seemed to have storage lockers all over the place. I mean, he would just load up a storage shed and take off somewhere. And I don't know if he just paid it for years in advance or what have you. I'm sure these storage sheds have now been absconded with by somebody who's at auctions because they haven't been paid for. And that information, they probably wouldn't even know how to acclimate it to this case or what to do with it. It would probably look like a bunch of junk, as most of Dennis's and Jack's storage sheds look like. But if you knew what you were looking for, you could certainly find those items.
Wasn't there the tape in Orangevale that you and Dennis had access to at one point?
Yes, and he had one in Lake County where Harriette was, and that one went up for auction as well, right, Harriette?
Yeah, and the guy tried to sell it to me for $50,000. And then I said, good luck in trying to shop this around, because he was going to take it to Hollywood. And I said, I think I told him, they said, they're going to try to kill you. Oh yeah, I'm a tough guy. Anyways, it's a couple of weeks later, and I thought it was my tree people calling me. It was him, and he's practically peeing his pants when he called me. He says, "Do you still want to offer the amount that you did?" Because I offered a small amount. And I said, "They tried to kill you, huh?" He said, "I was followed all the way." I mean, this is a tough guy. So anyways, he tried to get... He tried to shop it around in Hollywood, and I said, just the same thing that Dennis told me. He said after what he did with Black Dahlia, he said they were followed all over the place.
Wow.
Anyway, so yeah. So and I was happy to get the core parts of what, used to be in a house that was no longer there. So that was part of the reason.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, it definitely leads us back to the idea that, in the tape part of it really reminds me of the earlier murders in the 40s, where he actually tried to tape we found tape used in the commission of the MOs of the crimes. So this could also be a linguistic cross back to those particular crimes. But he's saying that we're looking for chess games with his name taped to the bottom of them. Did you ever see anything like that in any of Dennis's or Jack's stuff, Harriette?
I'm just trying to remember, but I think the thing that Jack had, this locker, I think it may have had some tape on it. So because Jack was good at making sure that things were detailed, that this was held this didn't hold this. So but I remember something like that. But yeah, it's very possible. He had it all over the place.
Well, I'm going to just put it out here on the podcast. If anybody else comes across any type of a storage shed and you find anything that says Jack W. Tarrance or John W. Tarrance in it, please reach out to myself or Harriette Souchet, because we'd be happy to take a look at what you have. So that brings us to your solve on this particular letter. And in this version, I'm showing what it would typed up on a typewriter. And Harriette, you found this from a Zodiac site where they had already pre-typed it in a typewritten manner, correct?
Yeah, it sounded like you almost said a bogus Zodiac site. I agree. But
well,
it was
isn't that what we nationally think?
Yeah, they think that of us. Same back to you guys at theydon'tLikeUs.com. So the reason why I went looking for something, because I thought I saw it over the years, this was reminding me that since it's a typed version, it would be like the Sergeant Lynch Code, which had a lot of small type in it. So that's what I was looking for, to get the feel of how am I going to get the aspect of which direction to go. And then I just went from there, and it flowed so fast.
And I feel like there's some definite differences in the Sergeant Lynch Code as far as the relation to the typewriter that they attempted to use. Mm-hmm. This particular typewriter that they are using to create this letter has this lowered letter N, as in Nancy, in. So this one dips down in each time, and that's how you can make an identification on a typewriter, and whether or not it executed or drafted a particular letter, is because all the keys are not going to strike exactly the same. Keys become loose over time. Areas of the actual letter on the actual key become damaged or wear away. So it is going to leave its own distinct mark, especially if it's a typewriter that is used quite frequently. And what I'm looking at in comparison to the Sergeant Lynch letter is that the type print on this particular document that they attempted to imitate is not consistent with the Dear Sergeant Lynch typewriting. But you do have a solve on this, so that's what we came here to hear. Why don't you go ahead and give that to us?
Well, we came off of, and this is from the last show, we came off of a very, very unstable, very bizarre, even admittedly by Jack, crazy guy in 1978, 77. So he's screaming for years for this particular stamp. This is now during the summer of 1978, right after he's shouting, "Eat a Richard Nixon," nickname D-word, and the other one to get Carter in the Channel 9. Anyways, so this is like, I was so happy to see this. It is saying, facsimile to Mar-a-Lago. Hi, President Carter. Pope John Paul I, Holy See, have several of the Washington, Cincinnati, Ohio secret mind control program remedy in possession, the Twin Towers, AB, that's for the Archbishop, NYC, New York City, field office, waiting for sick, ill, me with AA, that's the Alcoholics Anonymous, CIA, lysergic acid. Actually have some left in case I need it on 9/1/78. I have been looking all over the place 9 years. I want you to know, and I believe he's crying at this time, I want you to know you may have saved me. I tell you, on my honor, from the bottom of my heart, I am grateful to you all at UC Davis, His Holiness, C attention, that's the Holy See attention, TTTT, that's to tell the truth. Thank you. You remember, Me, once a success, Black Dahlia, Zodiac, PA System, BB Cooper. Now I am to hunt EA, that's each Tene. And then there's a pause, ICE, that they were looking for Nazis at the time for like 20 years. That's the immigration people. They wanted to expel them. So it's ICE, UTL, unable to locate, evil, Mehlek, Nazi animals, Illinois, TTTT, to tell the truth to all. I owe you. And he's signing off as no one. I got quite a few where he's signing off as no one. Because he's he's not DB Cooper. He's not the Zodiac. He's now back into the intel community, and he's no one.
And so he's finally received what he's been screaming for out of all of these letters. We're not going to see him screaming for this remedy anymore then, huh?
No, but he's bringing it up in quite a few other future ones that, he was trying to, he's now working. He's not saying it exactly at this point, but he's right then and there. He's getting into working for the Holy See, the Pope, and the Vatican. He's got he's not got his money for what they owed him and his crew for, but he's got a promotion.
So and what is the Holy See?
The Holy See is the government for the Vatican, the Catholic Church, and it's like 2,000 years old compared to all the other governments that later evolved after that. So this is like the boss.
Wow.
the boss of a lot of people.
The boss of probably one of the top money-making religions in the world.
I'm Catholic, so I said I got this, and I had a difficult time trying to present this and going to send this to you because I'm starting to cry when I was doing this.
Aww.
He's finally got what he's looking for, and like you said, the wife is pregnant. So I mean, he's trying to work. I'm seeing he's working in the intel community, but he's now like, can't believe this, and is at the Twin Towers. Okay, what else was at the Twin Towers? We've seen a lot about that.
Well, we know that Jack is Texas. We do have a picture of him at McClainley Park. This is actually in Jack's handwriting. So McClainley Park, Austin, Texas, summer of 1978. Actually, this is Nora's handwriting. So I am thinking that if this summertime is obviously going to be June 21st through what? September 21st? June to July,
I believe so.
So this really kind of lines up when we're looking at it with that whole notion that Jack had come back to California to pick up Nora. And we have this friction tape letter that is mailed out of the Los Angeles area, which is where Jack would have traveled through on his way back up. No, what?
It's not.
What's
Los
not?
Angeles, it's not Los Angeles, San Francisco Chronicle. That is the Angels at the St. Francis Chronicles. That's a place in Kansas. So
no. This letter says on it, mailed from Los Angeles, California, sent to San Francisco Chronicle.
No, I only got it's even at the other websites. It's from Los Angeles to San Francisco Chronicle. But when you
that's what I just said.
No, San Francisco Chronicle is also the San Francisco Chronicles. It is a religious newspaper in Kansas City, Missouri, that chronicles the Pope events, and they're the angels and all kinds of stuff that are in there. So
that's where it was sent
it's
to.
A play on words. It's a play on words. I said, okay, not Los Angeles, California, and it's the Angels to the St. Francis Chronicles. There's all this, it's Catholic, it's all this religious stuff. And it's otherwise known as the National Catholic Reporter in Kansas City, Missouri, which is not that far from Texas.
I am not understanding. So these people are printing on the internet that this was mailed based on the postmark from Los Angeles, California to the San Francisco Chronicle, which is a Zodiac move 101.
There's no postmark. There's no picture of an envelope. This is just
I don't see one.
We're making.
But these are this individual, I believe.
Words.
I believe this individual where I picked up. Okay, hold on, Harriette. I believe the individual that produced this particular communication is a former FBI agent, would have some inside information. So unless he's looking to deter or deliver disinformation, I don't know why he would place that there unless he had evidence or some envelope or something that would suggest that this was the postmark on it. Either way, that's what this says. And I don't have anything else to support or state that it was mailed anywhere else from anywhere else other than that. All right.
Well, there's like 30 different zip codes in Los Angeles, so I can go on. But when I saw that, I said, "There's."
Well, but what I'm not sure about any zip code. It doesn't list a zip code. But what I'm trying to establish, and it sounds to me like you keep going back to it, is that it was mailed out of Los Angeles. Was that your belief or not?
Yeah, but it just says from Los Angeles to San Francisco Chronicle.
And that's what I said. And we just spent 5 minutes with you arguing that it's being mailed from somewhere else to somewhere else. And we have no evidence to suggest otherwise than what that site says.
It's bringing up the Pope and what Chronicles. That's the St. Francis Chronicles. The San Francisco
what is
Chronicles,
the St. Francis Chronicles? I did not see that in your solve at all. There's nothing that lists that in your... Where?
That's what I'm trying to say, that that this is, it just at the bottom and it goes with that typed letter, but that's what this is. Well, you're talking about the Pope, the Chronicles of the Pope, the activities of all the popes, and that's
you're not hearing what I'm saying, Harriette. You're not hearing what I'm saying. And somehow I do not hear what you're saying because we're now spending way more time on this than is necessary because you attempted to correct it. I don't see anything in your solve that indicates what you're saying about this Kansas City newspaper.
It's a play on words.
What's a play on words?
It's Los Angeles. That's Spanish for the angels.
I get it.
San Francisco Chronicle is St. Francis Chronicles or St. Francis Chronicles. It's another paper.
But that's not even in California because this says it was mailed to the San Francisco Chronicle.
It doesn't say. You're not getting what I'm saying. It's from a Catholic point of view. And that's what he's talking about, how the Pope and the Holy See is helping him, finally.
Okay, let's move on.
All right. Yeah. All right. So this brings us to the next event in Jack's life at this point in time. And if he has just received the remedy as Harriette has solved in the last letter, then we see that he is probably a little bit more mellow and a little bit more calm when his son is born. So Charles Tarrance is born in Austin, Texas, son of both Jack Tarrance and Nora Tarrance. In this particular birth certificate, I thought it was interesting that Jack actually lists himself as Jack W. Tarrance, which is very rare for him to do. He does sign Jack, but a lot of the stuff we're going to see after Charles is born, he's going to swap it over to John Tarrance. What I did show that he was 50 years old. Did you know that he was 20 years older than Nora, Harriette?
Yeah. Yep.
I had no clue. Oh. Wow. What a difference. Anyways, he shows that he 30. Was... What's that?
She's 30 when she gave birth to Charles, and that's upcoming Charles.
And Jack was 50 at the time. So this is where I got the age. I didn't even know until I'd put this together. It shows that he was a service station manager for Hudson Oil Company. So again, we're back at another gas station type job that, as we have noticed, that's where they would place members of the CIA. So they're not missed, you know. I mean, obviously anybody could do that job, but they're there to collect and deliver information. And when they need to be called into service to do whatever it is that they're being asked to do, they can up and move on and go do that job and then come back to that little gas station once again. So I wasn't shocked to see that here we have Jack in the middle of another gas station, Hudson Oil Company. See, we show that Jack lists himself as a service station manager. His mother's residence is listed as Seguin, Texas at this time. He's living at 2005 Thrasher Lane in Austin, Texas. And Jack, I got that. Another reference to the type of gas station type jobs that these assets would have had. We do show a picture of... Go ahead.
I think our time is up.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We're about 30 seconds away from. All right. Well, we didn't make it through all of the slides, but we did make it through a decent amount. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy this episode on Black Friday. Is there anything you guys would like to add?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Although it's going to be a day late. Happy Black Friday.
Yeah. I hope you all had some great turkey and some good comas and some good leftovers. Go ahead, Harriette.
Yes. No, I'm just saying I'm very grateful to be the voice for the dead. I mean, so many of these people are gone.
I thought you were going to do a sign-off. I thought you were going to do a sign-off. All right, we got to go, guys. Everybody take care.
Peace out.